What is courage? What is honor? All these words are just ideals long forgotten. What is duty? What is glory? Are they just written down in some old story? When we hear a word like freedom, do we know what it really means? Or do we take it all?
I want to personally welcome the Arkansas Delegation to our hometown of Van Buren, who has come to honor our hero, Robert Jack, who gave his life for our freedom 100 years ago today in World War I. United States Senator John Boozman of Arkansas, Arkansas Representative Charlene Fite, Arkansas Senator Terry Rice, Van Buren Mayor candidate Joe Hurst, and the Arkansas State VFW Commander Michael Griffin. Thank you all for coming today. Although Robert Jack's remains are buried in France, his marker here at Gill Cemetery on Kibler Road stands as a tribute to the next generation that his memory will not be forgotten. At 24 years of age, Robert Jack was the first killed in World War I from Van Buren of Crawford County, Arkansas. Generations to come will never forget him and will ensure the survival of his legacy. The Robert Jack VFW Post 1322 of Van Buren serves all veterans from all wars and conflicts in this area. We have the first and oldest VFW post in Arkansas. Thank you for joining us today to honor Private Robert Jack.
And our veterans, guests, family, and friends, please stand and we will have our opening prayer. Please uncover, pray and rest.
Oh God, bless our nation's emblem. May it ever symbolize freedom and justice for all our people. Help these citizens to always respect those high principles that are noble and right, that they might better understand the high ideals represented by this flag. And if need be, if they have to trot on foreign soil to defend it, may you abide by them always. Amen.
Amen. Please cover. Face our flag. Veterans, present arms. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, arms.
We would like to present some things. Come on up, let's do this first. So we were trying to find some things that would be pertinent to Robert Jack, and we're able to find, it's really difficult when you go back that far. The records they're pretty sketchy. You know, a lot of stuff is lost. And then too, they just didn't record things like we do now. But we were able to find a little bit about his medical history here, okay? And then also, very nicely, this is a thing in memory of Robert Jack, and then also his gravesite. So this is from the memorial service there. And then this is a picture of the gravesite itself, which we can be very, very proud of. I'm part of I'm on the Veterans Committee, and this is one thing that we watch very, very closely. Any of you that have visited these memorials, they are pristine. They are something that we can be very, very proud of. And it's nice, not only does our government support it and make it work, but the countries that are in, and sadly they're scattered all over the world, they also are very, very proud, and I was there too, and recognize the sacrifice as you look out and you see all of these graves or Star of David, crosses, Star of David. It truly is a very, very nice thing. First of all, these are my old stomping grounds. I grew up in Fort Smith. My dad was in the 142nd, and my grandfather and uncle were in the unit that Robert Jack was in. So this is a picture of this is my grandfather here, his brother here, okay? But again, he was in the 142nd in the Rainbow Division. So this is personal also. This is something, again, that I'm very, very proud of, and very, very proud of the service. So we're remembering Robert Jack. We're also remembering the Gold Star lives. And my other grandfather, this is on my mom's side. This is him during World War I. And one of the things that we have are the letters that he sent when he was in France serving back to my grandma. And then what I'd like to do is read one of those letters. So this is 100 years old, right at 100 years old. I'm not going to read it from the letter because it's kind of hard to read, but it's really interesting. Here's the letter. On the front it says, "Please deliver this. Please deliver this young man buried my soldier boy." I'll explain that in a second. So again, we're honoring Gold Star families, Gold Star lives. And here's the letter. This was to my grandfather, John Nichols. I'm named after him. Please deliver this young man buried my soldier boy. That was on the front of the letter. Dear sir and friend, I have recently received a letter from Mr. John S. Q., who is my son Joe's corporal, informing me that you were the man who buried my boy. I'm writing to ask you to favor me by writing me the particulars of his burial. Tell me how he looked in death, if you remember. Did you know him personally? He was such a dear, loving son, and is brave always. Was he buried to himself, or with other dear boys who laid down their lives for their country? How was he dressed for burial? He had a silver apron he ate with, which he wanted me to have. Do you know what became of his kit, and would there be any way possible chance for me to get this apron? We have never got a thing he had but the testament, Kodak pictures, and letter that you took from his body. I can't tell you how much we appreciate this kindness. It was forwarded in the chaplain's package, and we supposed he took them from his person. I want to thank you for this kindness and tell you how much we love you for it. I have often wondered if anyone was there who loved him enough to weep tears over his grave. He was as sweet to me, always ready to help me or anyone who needed help. We've asked the government for his body, but I don't think we will get it. The Red Cross sent pictures of his grave, but we didn't know where he sleeps. Do you think there is any certainty of it being his body under this cross marked with his name? Of course, it doesn't matter so much where his body rests if it could only be undisturbed till the resurrection. But there may be a time when the bones of these brave soldiers will be dug up and cast out in order to find a place for other dead. I've been informed this is sometimes done in pitifully several countries. My one comfort is that he was ready and willing to die. He told his friend Roger Pinson before he went into the drive that if it was God's will for him to die for his country, he was ready and had no fear of death. Was that not a beautiful message to come back to me? I know he is in heaven with our loved ones, lost a while, and that when Jesus comes, Joe will be with him. I looked up your picture in the 390th album. You have a strong, pleasant face. I wish I could hope to see you sometime. Maybe by the grace of God, we'll meet there where Joe is. Are you a Christian? Is your mom living? Have you a family of your own? Do you expect to visit Texas? I want you to come see us if you do. Thinking of you again for your great kindness to us and assuring you of my love and prayer. I'm your friend, Mrs. J.J. Bart. Please answer so. So again, I think that really sums up what we're here for today. Sadly, this letter was written like in November of 1920. So it was after the war was over, and again, she's just kind of searching to find out what's happened. It's written to my grandfather, who's here in France, but sadly, 2 years later, he would die from, towards the end of the war, he got gas. Back then, he was in the hospital a couple of weeks, sent him back out, never really recovered, but never was that sick. And then as a result, 2 years after this, he died as a result of lung complications. So the neat thing is that these will be lowered with Joe. So that's really what it's all about. So, thank you all again. This really does mean a lot to me, and we appreciate all of your all's service. We appreciate the history of not only of the the gentlemen that we're honoring today, but also all of you all. We thank you for your service. And again, we always have to remember these are family affairs. And so we appreciate all of you that serve, but also the families who are involved too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Boozman. And now, Senator Rice, you have some comments, sir?
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to be here in the oldest post in Arkansas. I'm going to have to remind you of that. Let me give you a word before I forget from a lady named Mary Jacks with an S on the end of it. She is, I'm going to politely say, the senior staff in the Senate that takes care of these citations, and she does an excellent job. The reason she's still there. But she has told me, I don't know how many times, she thoroughly enjoyed doing it. She called and talked to Matthew, I think got some more information besides what I gave her. But she hadn't got to do a citation for World War I. And she was very pleased that since that happened, she got to do one for Conway. So I don't know if that started. But you're thinking about 100 years, been a long time ago, but it's just a blip in history. And that's what we're here today to remember one. And let me read the Senate citation that I'll be presenting. Is Robert Jack lived most of his short life in Van Buren, Arkansas area, where he farmed with his parents and 9 siblings. Joined Arkansas National Guard on June 5th, 1917 at age 23 as America entered World War I. Received his training at Camp Beauregard, Louisiana, and in June 1918 volunteered to deploy to France, where he was assigned to D Battery, 150th Brigade, as part of the famous 42nd Rainbow Division made up of all National Guard units in the United States. Whereas after serving some of the early battles in France, Robert Jack participated in the Battle of San, is it? Yeah? Okay, that's right. The first and only totally U.S.-led offensive of World War I under the command of General John J. Pershing, where he was killed on September 22nd, 1918, in a major Allied victory. And whereas on February 13, 1925, VFW Post 1322 in Van Buren was chartered and named the Robert Jack VFW in honor of his being the first casualty from Crawford County in World War I, and Post 1322 hosts the distinction of being the oldest VFW post in Arkansas. And whereas the members of the Arkansas Senate wish to join Senator Terry Rice and all who gathered on September 22nd, 2018, today, at Robert Jack VFW Post 1322, remembered and honored the 100th anniversary of the ultimate sacrifice made by their native son, Robert Jack, in America's first and only U.S.-led offensive in World War I. My privilege and honor to thank each and every veteran, those in my family that It means so much. Let me say, Senator Boozman, thank you for all you do for veterans, for the Gold Star families, for all families of veterans. His staff is excellent when I contact to be able to help, and that's greatly appreciated. You have my utmost and deep thanks for your service, and God bless each one.
Thank you, Senator Rice. State Representative Charlene Fite.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My uncle, Henry Winburn, entered World War I from Alma, Arkansas, when he was quite young. Family history is very brief about Henry. We don't know a lot about him. The records that I have seen just say he was never the same. He was never the same when he came home. As we would expect, one would be altered and changed by such an experience. But I know now, reading what I've read, that he had what we would call PTSD. But back then there really wasn't help. I'm so grateful now for groups like this that give our returning soldiers what they need. Anytime I have an issue, I know I can contact these men, and they will put me in the right direction to get the help that we need. I also know I can call Senator Boozman's office if we need help on a federal level rather than just local. I'm very grateful for organizations such as this. This is the hardest working group of men and women I've ever been around. They are always doing something for someone. Thank you for everything that you do for our military. It is an honor and a privilege to represent people such as you. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlene. Mayor candidate Joe Hurst. Go ahead, sir.
Mayor Freeman regrets that he is unable to be here today. He's out of town, but to be honest, I'm kind of glad he's not here because I'm excited to be here to read the proclamation and to honor you and to honor your service and to recognize Robert Jack for his service and what he means to this community. And it's just inspiring just to know the friends that I've made here in this post, how you guys have helped us throughout many different projects, especially the parks that we've done downtown. And one thing in particular that I love about that is that it allows children and young people to come and to remember our veterans and to honor our veterans. They get to have a little fun in the splash pad, but they get to come over on the other side and just honor them in that special way. And just being able to have my children here, to see these young guys and girls here as well, it's just really important that the history of our veterans remains in our minds and our children learn about that. So it's inspiring to see you guys here and the others. So on behalf of the Mayor Bob Freeman, I'm going to read this proclamation. And the City of Van Buren proclamation, whereas Robert Jack, born in Newark, Arkansas, on February 25th, 1894, moved to Van Buren between 1894 and 1900 to farm and make a living. And whereas Robert Jack entered the military on June 5th, 1917, at the young age of 23, as America entered in World War I. And whereas he was assigned to the 2nd Arkansas Regiment of the Arkansas Guard, which then became the 142nd Field Artillery and 39th Infantry Brigades, which are still active today. And whereas Robert Jack was sent to Camp Beauregard, Louisiana, with the entire Arkansas Guard, where they were trained to prepare for war. In June of 1918, Robert then volunteered to deploy to France, as only 20% of his unit went with him. Assigned to D Battery, 150th Field Artillery Brigade. He was part of the famed 42nd Rainbow Division, comprised of all National Guard units from around the United States. And whereas Robert Jack served in and survived many battles, such as Chateau Thierry, which is the French word, so it's kind of Chateau Thierry, But his final service came during the Battle of St. Mihiel as he was struck by shrapnel and killed on September 22nd, 1918. The Battle of St. Mihiel was America's first sole offensive battle in World War I, and this ended up establishing the stature of the U.S. Army in the eyes of its allies. It's a really important. Whereas the members of the Robert Jack VFW Post 1322 remember and celebrate the life and service of Robert Jack, the war hero the Post is named after, on this 100th year of the anniversary of his death. Now therefore I, Joe Hurst, on behalf of Mayor Bob Freeman, the mayor of the city of Van Buren, do hereby declare September 22nd, 2018 as Robert Jack Day in the city of Van Buren, Arkansas, and encourage residents to recognize Robert Jack's selfless service and in his giving of the ultimate sacrifice to our country. Thank you.
That's just awesome up there. Okay, now I'd like to promote you that, or for those of you that don't know, I'd like to introduce our post quartermaster, Mike. I got a friend named Mike. I ain't known you very long, buddy. Yeah, that's been how many years now? Okay, it's all right. My dad does it too. I have a younger brother named Michael. He's 4 years younger than I, and yeah, especially when we were younger. I was Mike or Matt or a few other choice words from my father. My brother, especially when we got into a little fight there. But anyway, all right. Well, welcome everybody. Wow, this is awesome. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. And wow, I had no idea that it touched that close to home. That's pretty interesting. But anyway, we're here to celebrate Robert Jack and our nation's emblem, our flag. But first, I'd like to make an acknowledgement. Yesterday, September 21st is also known as POW MIA Day. And as you entered this room this morning, you may have noticed that small table sitting right back here in this corner. It is set for one. This table is our way of symbolizing the fact that members of our profession of arms are missing from our midst. They are commonly called POWs or MIAs, and we call them brothers. They are unable to be with us this morning, and so we remember them. And as this map shows, at present, we've got 82,000 American remain missing. And out of 82,000 missing, 75% of the losses are located in the Asia Pacific area, and over 41,000 of the missing are presumed lost at sea. Ship losses, aircraft that had crashed at sea. Each item on this table has a meaning, and there's a picture back there that explains the items and their purpose. And after today's ceremony, make a note to kind of stop by there and pay your respects to the ones that not have to come home yet. That's our POW MIA table right there. So today's ceremony would normally be held to remember Patriots Day, September 11, 2001. And I'm sure as many as you guys, that it's not a day that you'll soon forget. I was in PLDC at Fort Polk, Louisiana, going through the leadership development course. We had just finished PT that morning, and we saw it while we were eating breakfast. And we had units, or some folks that were in units that actually left that day. They were MBC guys. So anyway, I'm sure most of you guys remember where you were during that time. But, however, we want to honor one of our own today. And one of the oldest truths in the world is that nothing worth having is cheap, and many times the greater the good, the higher its cost. Keeping America free has cost us dearly over the centuries. And since 1776, we as a nation have lost thousands of lives and suffered thousands of injuries to guarantee our freedom. Preserving the peace also requires the daily toil of millions of men and women who, without fanfare or glory, serve to protect our freedom and our security. World War I, or the Great War, as many called it, was supposed to be the war to end all wars. And as we all know, that didn't quite happen. World War I began in 1914 after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and lasted until 1918. During the conflict, Germany, Austria, Hungary, Bulgaria, and the Ottoman Empire fought against Great Britain, France, Russia, Italy, Romania, Japan, and the United States. We were all the Allied powers. And Thanks to new military technologies and the horrors of trench warfare, World War I saw unprecedented levels of carnage and destruction. It also led to a newly created advertising industry by producing propaganda posters as a way to inspire the home front and to sell goods, and is also a way to raise money for the war effort. By the time the war was over and the Allied powers had claimed victory, more than 16 million people, soldiers and civilians alike, were dead. And if you want to take a look, these are the propaganda posters. This is, probably can't see very well, some trenches. But you're looking at the face of the artist who drew that poster. We learned that when we took we went to the National Convention in Kansas City, and that's where the National World War I Museum is located. And if you hadn't had an opportunity to take a look at that, that's impressive. It's a really impressive sight to see. So, go ahead. World War I took the lives of more than 8 million soldiers, 21 million more were wounded. Civilian casualties caused indirectly by the war numbered close to 10 million. The two nations most affected were Germany and France, each of which sent some 80% of their male populations between the ages of 15 and 49 into battle. As far as the U.S. is concerned, around 4 million soldiers were mobilized, and 116,708 military personnel died during World War I from all causes: the swine flu of 1918, combat, and wounds. And something that I didn't actually really know is just recently we did an emergency management drill, and part of our drill was about the bird flu. And in history that was brought out about that, one of the gifts that we gave to the world was the swine flu, because it started in Kansas, and we took it overseas. So that's something that we can talk about that we did. Over 204,000 were wounded, and 757 U.S. civilians died due to military action. One of those 116,000 men was our very own Robert W. Jack. And if you guys haven't seen what Robert Jack looks like, over here on this wall is the only known picture that we have of him holding the rifle. The one underneath, we think, as of this morning, due to some research, we think it's his younger brother Charles. But we're not really sure because there's nothing written on that. But if you put those two pictures up side by side, they look awfully close. David and Ella Jack moved to Arkansas from Tennessee. That's Robert's mom and dad. David had served as an infantryman in the 4th Tennessee Cavalry during the Civil War and became a farmer when they moved to Newark, Arkansas. And this is where Robert Jack was born, February 25th, 1894. And sometime between 1894 and 1900, Robert's family had made the 202-mile journey west when they moved here to Van Buren and settled down. And shortly thereafter, David Jack had passed away in 1901. Miss Ella never remarried. Robert registered for service during the summer draft of World War I and joined the 2nd Arkansas Infantry Regiment in June of 1917 at the age of 23. There was still no official National Guard at this time, but after his basic training, he was assigned to the newly organized 142nd Field Artillery Regiment as a wagoneer in the supply company. And after a couple of months, he was transferred to Delta Battery, 143rd Field Artillery, when they left for Camp Beauregard in May of 1918. It was here when the call came out to formally nationalize the State Guard units and redesignate them to the units we know today, the 39th Infantry Brigade and the 142nd Field Artillery. And of course, they've done a few changes from then till now, but those two units are still active today. In fact, there's a few of you that actually served in Desert Storm in the 142nd Field Artillery. If you did, raise your hand, please. There we go. So while this unit was in Louisiana, a call came out for those that wanted to go to France and help. Robert Jack was one of 20% of the troops who answered that call. He volunteered to go into harm's way to help fight for a cause he had believed in. He left for France on the USS Saxon in June of 1918 from a port in New York, and the rest of his unit did not deploy for another 3 or 4 months later. And one more. There we go. In 10 short days, because that's how long it took to cross the Atlantic then, Robert landed in France. He was assigned to Delta Battery, 150 Field Artillery Regiment of the 42nd Division, also known as the Rainbow Division. And he was assigned to firing 155 millimeter howitzers. Interestingly enough, the 42nd Division got its name from within its ranks, as it was entirely comprised of the newly formed National Guard units from around the U.S. and commanded by then Colonel Douglas MacArthur. who many of you may remember from World War II as General MacArthur. Private Jack survived the Battle of Chateau Thierry and went on to fight into the Battle of St. Mihiel. And as the ceremony finishes up later on, you get a chance, we've got all kinds of historical artifacts up here that we've been able to find, both from the World War I Museum and from the Arkansas State Archives, and a couple of things that we have here. But these two books over here at the end in the white folder, the World War I Museum printed out for us, and in one of them, we think we've pinpointed the exact moment that Robert Jack was killed in that history. So we think we found that. But the Battle of St. Mihiel was a major turning point in the war and was the very first American-led force against the Germans. The battle was led by General John J. Pershing, otherwise known as Blackjack, with 550,000 American troops and 110,000 French troops. The operation relied on 3,010 artillery guns, none of which were U.S. made. They were all French and British weapons. This battle lasted for several days against a retreating German front. Private Jack and the rest of the 42nd plowed through knee-deep mud for roads and concertina wire traps, all while using horses to pull these artillery cannons and through torrential downpours that turned the trenches into man-made rivers. Sadly, Robert Jack was killed in action by shrapnel from a German mortar round on September 22nd, 1918. He was just 24 years old. He was buried in grave number 8, next slide. Number 8, row 5, block D, in St. Mihiel Cemetery at the edge of the Thiacourt, a city of some 10,000 population. That's it right there. A monument to his memory also stands in Gill Cemetery. His death occurred just 50 days before the armistice was signed on the 11th hour of the 11th month of the 11th day, today known as Veterans Day. That's what the Armistice Day was back then, and they eventually changed to that. Next slide. At this moment, Miss Ella Jack, already a widow from the passing of her husband David in 1901, became a Gold Star mom. The last time she heard from Robert was a month or so before his death. He wrote her to say that I am being transferred to the Toul front, and that if it's God's wish for me not to see you again, I will see you in heaven. Miss Jack got the news that Robert was killed October of 1918. He was reported to be one of the first casualties of World War I from Crawford County. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to Miss Tara Baker, our auxiliary president.
Good morning.
Good morning.
During the early days of American involvement in World War I, an Ohio infantry captain made a banner comprised of red stripes surrounding 2 blue stars on a white background in honor of his 2 sons' services. This service flag became official when the Ohio congressman adopted into the congressional record. A blue star was used to represent each person, man or woman, in the military service of the United States. Very similar to the ones you see around town. A lot of us put them in the windows or on the doors so as for the service members that are deployed. As the war progressed and men were killed in combat, others wounded and died of their wounds or disease, there came about an acceptance usage of the Gold Star. This Gold Star was substituted and superimposed upon the blue star in such a manner as to entirely cover it. The idea of the Gold Star was that the honor and glory accorded the person for his supreme sacrifice and offering for his country. The last full measurement of devotion and pride of the family in this sacrifice, rather than the sense of personal loss, which would be represented by the mourning symbols. Since Robert Jack was buried in France, Miss Ella did not have the money to afford the trip overseas. Following World War I, American families had a choice of burying their soldier son among their fallen comrades in Europe, or having the body reported to the United States for burial. Either case, the government paid for the burial. Approximately a third of America's World War I casualties were buried in Europe, in American military cemeteries established in the early 1920s. Once this another in England, the others were in France. This represented approximately 33,000 European burials. The American military cemeteries were, for the most part, built on or near the major battlefields of war, and those who died were buried in the cemeteries close to where they fell. It wasn't until 1929 that the Act of Congress was passed to sponsor the Gold Star Commemoration of the Mothers of Widows. Women who were eligible to participate if they had not remarried in turn since the war. Under the guidance of the Army Quartermaster Corps, between 1930 and 1933, approximately 6,400 women, the vast majority of the travelers were the mothers. Travelers traveled to Europe on month-long trips to spend time in places where their child had been buried. Note, the travel took approximately between April and September each year to take advantage of the sailing due to the weather. Despite the weather in their earliest worst years of depression, the trip included voyages there and back on first-class ocean liners on which the women were treated like royalty. Time in Paris to rest up from the voyage and to see that the war memorials and other historical sites, and a few days at the military cemetery where their child had found a final resting place. All this was provided by the government at no cost to these travelers. The estimated approximate cost for this was $840 round trip for these women and the widows. On May 6, 1930, the SS America steamed out of Pier 3 for the Hoboken, I should know this, I lived in Jersey, New Jersey, with 231 women on board, all guests of the United States government. Miss Ella was one of those 231 women who got to go to France on the very first trip offered by the Gold Star Mother Pilgrimage Program, a full 13 years since the last time she saw her son alive. Upon Robert's passing and our newly formed VFW Post 1322 in February of 1925, Miss Ella was named the Post Mother by some of the veterans who served with her son in Arkansas and Louisiana before he deployed to France, where they eventually deployed to as well. As you see, Matt is holding up a picture, the only picture that we have of Miss Ella.
The lady in the black cap.
And our citation also with her name of it for the post as the Post Mother. That is hanging up next door. Miss Jack was honored by this, and she also became a founding member of auxiliary of the post for which her son was named after. She remained living in Van Buren at 609 Vine Street until her death in 1940. Her property was still here, but now there's public housing that is currently on that lot. The last day in September 30th is the official Gold Star Mother's Day. This is the outset. This is set aside to remember and honor those sons and daughters that were lost in Alma.
And one of the last things that came out of World War I that has survived the last 100 years and is attributed to remembering the lives lost through every conflict since is this small red flower known as the buddy poppy. Lieutenant Colonel John McRae was a poet and physician from Guelph, Ontario. He developed an interest in poetry at a young age and wrote throughout his life. At the age of 41, McRae enrolled with Canadian Expeditionary Force following the outbreak of the war. McRae fought in the Second Battle of Ypres in the Flanders region of Belgium, where the German army launched one of the first chemical attacks in the history of war. They attacked French positions north of the Canadians with chlorine gas on April 22, 1915, but were unable to break through the Canadian line, which held for over 2 weeks. In a letter written to his mother, McCrae described the battle as a nightmare. And before I continue, if you're not sure about what chlorine gas does to you, it robs the oxygen out of your lungs. It basically fries your lungs. And it's heavier than air, so that's why they used it, because it settled into the trenches. For 17 days and 17 nights, none of us have had our clothes off, nor our boots even, except occasionally. And in all that time while I was awake, gunfire and rifle fire never ceased for 60 seconds. And behind it all was the constant background of the sights of the dead, the wounded, the maimed, and a terrible anxiety lest the line should give way. During this battle, his close friend Alexis Helmer was killed during this battle. McCrae performed the burial service himself, and at which time he noted how the poppies quickly grew around the graves of those who died at Ypres. The next day, he composed the poem while sitting in the back of an ambulance at an advanced dressing station outside of Ypres. In Flanders fields, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing and fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. Please look at the table with the bouquet of flowers on it. Set them right back there. This is our tribute to Robert Jack and all veterans past and present in remembrance. As part of the Robert Jack Post 1322, we distribute buddy poppies that are made by disabled veterans in memory of those that have paid the ultimate price. The donations raised by these poppies help us support those in need in our community. Last year, we distributed over 5,000 poppies in several events, which helped us raise almost $1,000. We want to thank those of you who have stopped by and appreciate you. Every time we set up a booth, we pass out these poppies, and a lot of people, especially some of our senior generation, remember them from World War II veterans, passing them out, and Korean War veterans that had passed them out. And there's a lot of folks that in the last 6 years that we've been going pretty strong, we've passed them out at every event that we've had, and there are still people that comes like, man, I remember these. I haven't seen them in a long time. So we want everybody to have a buddy poppy today, in case you didn't remember them, or in case you just didn't have one. We want you to have one today. We gave you this history today to honor Robert Jack, a young farmer who was drafted into service, but then did what many in this room have done, and what many men and women across this nation do daily. We chose to raise our right hand and volunteer to give, if necessary, the last full measure of devotion to the country we love. In other words, we were willing to die and come home under the very flag we are here to retire today. So our nation's flag means many things to many people, but to us, the veteran, the flag is a symbol that is all sacred to us. Look at it closely for a moment, our flag. The white stripes symbolize purity of purpose in our freedom of thought, expression, and worship. These are the privileges we guarantee to all who live in our land. They are the rights we defended, and our brothers and sisters in arms continue to defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic, who seek to destroy the way of life that you and I cherish. Also in that flag, we see the red stripes of courage, our willingness to die if necessary for the preservation of American ideals. And then there's the blue of tranquility, upon which these stars of our states are united to hold intact all that is truly ours, the desire for peace, prosperity, and happiness throughout our nation. We emphasize this interpretation of the flag of the United States, which you see carried so proudly and guarded so carefully. We will now begin folding the ceremony flag, and we'll go over the symbolism of the folds. Fighting under the flag of this nation is the privileged duty of every able-bodied American. The veterans of foreign wars of the United States will always honor the sacrifices made in her honor. As you see before you the many flags that we are here to retire today, many of these flags flew above our buildings and greeted you as you passed by, each holding a history that many of us take for granted. And as you see our comrades take hold of this flag, please watch and listen as we prepare this flag for retirement. After the flag is folded, you guys, you the audience, will be able to help us fold the rest of these to participate in today's ceremony later on this morning. Notice this flag is held taut and waist high. We will now fold the lower half of the flag lengthwise over the field of stars. We will now fold the flag again lengthwise with the blue field on the outside. And now we will make a triangular fold by bringing the striped corner of the folded edge to meet the top edge of the flag. This first fold of our flag is the symbol of life. The second fold is a symbol of our belief in the eternal life. The third fold is made in honor and remembrance of the veteran departing our ranks who gave a portion of life for the defense of our country to attain a peace throughout the world. The fourth fold represents our weaker nature. As for American citizens trusting in God, it is to Him we turn in times of peace as well as in times of war for His divine guidance. The fifth fold is a tribute to our country. For in the words of Stephen Decatur, our country, in dealing with other countries, may she always be right, but is still our country, right or wrong. The sixth fold is for where our hearts lie. It is with our heart that we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The seventh fold is a tribute to our armed forces, for it is through the armed forces that we protect our country and our flag against all her enemies, whether they be found within or without the boundaries of our republic. The eighth fold is a tribute to the one who entered into the valley of the shadow of death that we might see the light of day, and to honor Mother, for whom it flies on Mother's Day. The ninth fold is a tribute to womanhood, for it has been through their faith, love, loyalty, and devotion that the character of the men and women who have made this country great have been molded. The 10th fold is a tribute to Father, for He too has given His sons and daughters for the defense of our country since they were first born. The 11th fold, in the eyes of a Hebrew citizen, represent the lower portion of the seal of King David and King Solomon, and glorifies in their eyes the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold, in the eyes of the Christian citizen, represents an emblem of eternity and glorifies in their eyes God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And when the flag is completely folded, the stars are uppermost, reminding us of our national motto, "In God We Trust." After the flag is completely folded and tucked in, it takes on the appearance of a cocked hat, ever reminding us of the soldiers who served under General George Washington and the sailors and Marines who served under Captain John Paul Jones, who were followed by their comrades and shipmates in the armed forces of the United States, preserving for us the rights, the privileges, and freedoms that we enjoy today. Now, in our audience, before we start folding flags, we also have a special announcement that we'd like to do at this time. And then after that announcement is over with, we'll continue to fold all of these flags that are in here. And then once these are all folded in here, we'll move our ceremony outside. Sound good? Commander Griffin, Commander Duty, you guys come forward, please.
Actually, I wanted to call Earl up. I was going to segue with saying oldest post, and speaking of old, Earl would come up here. This was presented previously at a small little ceremony, but under Earl's leadership and guidance, this post has flourished over the last time that he's been here. This is from the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Department of Arkansas, for the year 2017-2018, Post Commander of the Year for the whole state, Commander Earl Duty, Post 1322 Van Buren. He's the Post Commander the best post commander for the whole state of Arkansas. And this is
Just come to one of our meetings, I get real long-winded. No, anyway, like I said, it's you know, this was given to me, but I'm telling you right now, I can't do it by myself. Our post is like was said previously. It's everybody works very hard. They, they come out to events. It's all about community. It's about service back to our veterans, take care of our veterans, and I'm just proud to be the post commander of this post. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And now at this time, if you guys would be glad to join us in folding all these flags up. We've got plenty of folks here that are experienced in folding them. We'll be more than happy to share that with you, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to get these flags folded and prepare them for retirement. Also, at the end of the ceremony, we're going to have some refreshments after we come in from back outside again, because it looks like the weather is going to cooperate real well. And one of the things that we have been doing for a little while, and you have one last chance. We postponed our rifle raffle drawing from last weekend to this weekend. So if you are interested in wanting to try to win an AR-15, yeah, because I haven't won it in the last 5 or 6 years that we've done any kind of drawing. But anyway, you're more than welcome to give it a shot. We do have some tickets, and they're over here in this little, yes, our little, bingo thingy. If you're interested in that, see us after the ceremony. We'll hook you up, and who knows, maybe the winner's sitting in this room. Anyway, thank you, and we'll start folding flags.
Another quick question. There's another question that always comes up. If it's not an American flag, how do you fold it, state flag or other? The respectful answer is the same way that you fold an American flag, with respect and dignity. Okay, let's get the folding.
What is courage? What is honor? All these words are just ideals long forgotten. What is duty? What is glory? Are they just written down in some old story? When we hear a word like freedom, do we know what it really means? Or do we take it all for granted, living like kings and queens? We are blessed to live in freedom, blessed to live in peace, blessed with food and shelter, blessed with life on lease, blessed to
now continue the rest of our flag retirement ceremony. At this time, Sean will present the flag for inspection.
This flag has served this nation long and well. It is now worn to a condition in which it should no longer represent this great nation. We pay honor to the service that it has provided.
At this time, please stand, place your hand over your heart for military police salute.
Raise that.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Any of our special guests, after the veterans retire flag, feel free to do so, or anybody else. Comrade Chaplain, will you lead us into benediction, please?
Uncovered. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we ask that you dismiss us with your blessing and grant that we may continually experience the calmness, the sincerity of heart and soul which comes from you. And make us useful servants in all things. Amen.
I want to thank each and every one of you for your attendance today. As the fire consumes these flags, the ashes will be buried here on this property. As you leave today, please take home the pride and of the importance of this day's ceremony, and remember that our flag has no allegiance to a political party, agenda, business interest, or commercial activity. O Glory, as she is named as our banner of truth, justice of the American way, may she forever wave over our land of the brave and home of the free. This concludes our ceremony. I'd like to thank Senator John Boozman, Senator Terry Rice, Representative Charlene Fite, Joe Hurst, and our VFW State Commander Mike Griffin. The Marine Corps League for your continuing the honor and tradition that makes their service great. The Van Buren Fire Department, and many thanks to our special guests. I'd like to thank Mrs. Brammer for the national anthem. She did a great job. And I'd like to thank you all for coming again. If you would, we have refreshments inside that Dogs Over has provided. And if you would, stay and have refreshments with us. Thank you all so much.
You can't differentiate
Everybody, last chance if you want to try for the rifle raffle. It's going to draw in a couple minutes.
Sorry, I guess I didn't know well, that's
only the good stuff for today.
right. Nothing to see.
Really? No, it's actually a
There's water or sweet tea and lemonade.
Young lady, can I interrupt your hot dog eating? Would you want to come over here and draw a ticket for us, please? Quick.
There she goes for the rifle raffle ticket.
It's Anita Ricketts. Anita Ricketts. Okay. Could you come back and draw another? No. Anita, this is Earl Duty. I'm post commander of the 1322, and you bought a raffle ticket for our AR-15. I started to say you can reach me at 479-670-3836.
Winner!
And you will have one. And if you'll call me, we'll instruct you how to come and get your AR-15.
You won!
Thanks for yeah, thank you. All right.
Oh.
That's it. Thank you. Get your rifle.